All right, hello. This video is going to introduce you to graphing sine and cosine on a graph. And what does that mean? Well, whenever we start graphing, I like to make points for x and y, make an x and y chart. So let's say we'll make this x, and we're going to make our y's over here. One y will be y equals the sine of theta, or sine of x, whatever x is, y will be the sine. Over here, we'll say y is equal to the cosine of x. And again, we are graphing these. So I'm going to just take my points from the unit circle, and I'm going to do it in radians. I could do it in degrees. This would also be 30 degrees, same thing. This would be 0 degrees, and so on and so forth. For today, I'm just going to do radians. So when x is 0, the sine is going to be the y value, and the y value at 0 radians is 0. My cosine at 0 radians is 1. Remember, sine is the y value, whereas cosine is the x value at that coordinate. Okay, and I go to pi over 6. My sine is 1/2, and my cosine is rad 3 over 2, which I'm going to put in parentheses is about 0.87 to remind myself when I'm graphing. Okay, I'm going to move on to pi over 4. My sine is going to be rad 2 over 2, which I'll remind myself is about 0.71. And my cosine is also rad 2 over 2. Okay, then I'm going to go to pi over 3. And my sine is rad 3 over 2, which is again about 0.87. And my cosine is 1/2, which is 0.5. You need to know that. Then I get up here to pi over 2. And my y value is 1, so my sine is 1. And my x value is 0, so my cosine is 0. Then I get to 2 pi over 3. My sine is rad 3 over 2. And my cosine is negative 1/2. 3 pi over 4. My sine is positive rad 2 over 2. My cosine is negative rad 2 over 2. 5 pi over 6. My sine is 1/2, and my cosine is negative rad 3 over 2. Then I got to 1 pi. And my sine is 0, and my cosine is negative 1. All right, I'm halfway done. Let's keep going. Then I'm at 7 pi over 6. And my sine is negative 1/2. And my cosine is negative rad 3 over 2. Then I'm at 5 pi over 4. My sine is going to be negative rad 2 over 2. My cosine is also negative rad 2 over 2. Then I have 4 pi over 3. And my sine is going to be negative rad 3 over 2. And my cosine is negative 1/2. Then I got to 3 pi over 2. And my sine is negative 1. And my cosine is 0. Okay, last quadrant. 5 pi over 3. My cosine, or my sine is negative rad 3 over 2. And my cosine is positive 1/2. And then 7 pi over 4. My sine is negative rad 2 over 2, and my cosine is positive rad 2 over 2. And then 11 pi over 6. 11 pi over 6. My sine, the y value is negative 1/2. And my cosine is going to be positive rad 3 over 2. And then my very last one, 2 pi. And my sine is 0, and my cosine is 1. Whew, okay, I did it. So I now have two t charts. I have an x and y to graph. If this is x, this is going to be the sine of x. Or I could say if this is x, this is the cosine of x. So let's go ahead and graph these. I'm going to label this down here. Let's see, what points am I going to have on the x-axis? Well, I went from 0 to 2 pi, and I'm going to label each of these points in between. How many points is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm going to label 17 points, including this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that is 0, and that is 2 pi. Okay, so again, I'm labeling it. I'm going to have pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, pi over 2, pi. And then I'm going to have, oh, sorry. After pi over 2, it's 2 pi over 3. Then I have 2 pi over 3, and I have to start going down. 2 pi over 3, and then I have 3 pi over 4, and then 5 pi over 6, and then pi, and then 7 pi over 6, and then 5 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 3, and then 3 pi over 2, and then 5 pi over 3, and then 7 pi over 4, and then 11 pi over 6, and then 2 pi. Beautiful. All right, my y coordinates, these are going to be my values. Every value I have is either 0, 1, about 0.87, about 0.71, about about 0.5, and these go both ways. So here's 1. I would have negative 0.5, negative about 7.1, and negative about 0.87. So let's just go ahead and label these. If this is 1, how many did I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just want to make my graph even. Let's call that negative 1. The halfway point, we'll call that 1/2. Halfway point, we'll call that negative 1/2. And then what else? We had 0.71 and 0.87, which is an exact form rad 2 over 2 and rad 3 over 2. So let's see. 0.71 would be almost halfway between here and here, not quite. We'll call that rad 2 over 2. And then again, not quite halfway about here. We'll call it negative rad 2 over 2. And then a little bit farther along, we'll call that rad 3 over 2. Or down here, negative rad 3 over 2. All right, now let's graph. Let's do the sine graph first. So if this is my x coordinate, my y coordinate is going to be the sine of x. So when x is 0, the sine is 0. When x is pi over 6, the sine is 1/2. When x is pi over 4, the sine is rad 2 over 2. When x is pi over 3, we have rad 3 over 2. When x is pi over 2, my sine is 1. And then maybe you'll start to see a pattern. Then I go 2 pi over 3, my sine is back to rad 3 over 2. 3 pi over 4, I have rad 2 over 2. 5 pi over 6, I have 1/2. And then at pi, I go down to 0. And then at 7 pi over 6, I'm down to negative 1/2. 5 pi over 4, I'm at negative rad 2 over 2. At 4 pi over 3, I'm at negative rad 3 over 2. And at 3 pi over 2, I'm at negative 1. Can you see my pattern? Can you guess where I'm going to go next? 5 pi over 3, I'm at negative rad 3 over 2. 7 pi over 4, I'm at negative rad 2 over 2. 11 pi over 6, I'm at negative 1/2. And then 2 pi, I'm back to 0. So that is the graph of sine. I will highlight that in blue. All right, let's do the graph of cosine next. So when x is 0, my cosine is 1. When x is pi over 6, my cosine is rad 3 over 2. When x is pi over 4, my cosine is rad 2 over 2. No stops there. At pi over 3, I have 1/2. At pi over 2, I'm at 0. At 2 pi over 3, I'm at negative 1/2. 3 pi over 4, I'm at negative rad 2 over 2. 5 pi over 6, I'm at negative 3 rad 3 over 2. And at pi, my cosine is negative 1. And then what happens? Well, can you guess? What happens next? 7 pi over 6, I'm back to negative rad 3 over 2. 5 pi over 4, I'm back to negative rad 2 over 2. Overlaps right there. At 4 pi over 3, I'm at negative 1/2. At 3 pi over 2, my cosine is 0. At 5 pi over 3, I'm back to positive 1/2. 7 pi over 4, I'm at rad 2 over 2. 11 pi over 6, I'm at rad 3 over 2. And at 2 pi, I'm back to 1. So I'm going to, let's see, I did the sine in blue. I'll do the cosine in pink. Just kind of connect my dots. So you can see the graphs of sine x and cosine x. And if you can maybe guess, these are just going to continue because this is one full time around the unit circle. So if I were to go one more, sixth, that would be at the same place as here, 1/6. Here I'm at 12/6. If I went 13/6, I would be the same as 1/6. If I were to go thirds, here I'm at, or fourths, here I'm at 8/4. If I were to go one more time around the unit circle and be at 16 or 6, sorry, where am I? 8/4. If I add one more, I'm at 9/4. I'm going to be at the same point here. And so on and so forth. It's going to just repeat itself. Same with the cosine. It's just going to repeat itself as the unit circle continues. But it took one full time around the unit circle, or 2 pi, to do one full cycle of sine, to go from here to hit every single one and then come back around, back to the starting point, the midline. Whereas my cosine, I also had to go 2 pi to get back to the starting point. And I hit every point twice, with the exception of my max and min. On my sine, I only hit once, whereas my cosine, I only hit my minimum. All right, so this is your introduction to graphing sine and cosine.